I think it's like a community of like-minded people, and that I can work out at home, or I can find other ways to work out. But when I go to Reason, it's like everyone's on the same page. And I think as like a mom, as someone working, it's nice to have a community like that.
Coach Miguel here.
Coach Drew here, and you're listening to the Finding Reason podcast,
where we focus on the 5 factors of health: nutrition, sleep, movement, mindset, and connection.
Enjoy.
Hey, what's up, Reason community? This is Coach E here, and we have a very special guest here today. This is Wendy Mattick. Wendy, say hi.
Hi.
Wendy's been with us since 2018, and she took a little bit of time off, and then she's been back with us since I don't know when. I want to say mid of 2021, she came back. She took a break, I think, in 2019, and then she's been back. Wendy is a mom of 2. None on the way, right?
None on the way.
Well, Wendy is a mom of 2. Sorry to surprise yourself. But Wendy is a mom of 2. She is I want to say a professional chef. I don't know if that's the right word right phrase to use, but she's a professional chef. I've had the courtesy of being on the receiving end of something that she's made before, and her food is delicious and made with love. And she's been with us. She is a mom. She's an athlete, and she's gone through lots of ups and downs. And today we're just going to kind of hear about her journey a little bit. So thanks for being here.
It's great to be here. Yeah. Excited.
Yeah. So the first question that we have is, I already said it. How long have you been training with us? Or like, I guess a better question to ask is like, have you always been fit? And if not, what inspired you to live a more fit lifestyle?
For the most part, I've not always been fit, but have always been active. I was active in high school, college. Years after that, I think the first period of time I became not active was after the birth of my first child in 2016. So I was like just concentrating on being a mom, being present for her, trying to like breastfeed. And that's like a whole really difficult journey for moms. So I felt like I didn't have time for myself. And I distinctively remember like looking up Reason, like feeling really uncomfortable in my skin. And then like being like, what do I want to do? And I hadn't really heard about CrossFit, but I looked up Reason and I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. But for the most part, I had been active most of my life. And I think it was motherhood that really changed all of that for me. Like becoming a mom, I just didn't have the time and I didn't prioritize myself anymore. Mm. Yeah. And then so I didn't get active again until my daughter was about 1 or maybe even longer than 1.5. Mm-hmm. And then I found Reason, and because I live in Arcadia, or I was living in Arcadia also. So then I just started doing it. Yeah. Yeah.
I've talked to quite a few moms about this, and it sounds like a lot of moms go through this, this season of being hyper focused on being a mom, right? Which is like extremely reasonable, which you should be, right? As a parent. Yeah. How, like for you, what was the internal battle of, okay, like what made you feel ready to, like, why 1.5 years? You know, because I've heard some moms are like, and this is a bad example because she never took any time off, but like Crystal took like six weeks off and then she was back in the gym, right? And then there's some moms that take like 6 months or 6 years, right? Yeah. What is it that you think, like, what was it by the time that you were ready to come back? Was it like, okay, I need to start working out? Like, what triggered that for you?
I think it was like I was done breastfeeding, I was done pumping, and I felt like she had grown enough where I didn't always need to be with her. I returned back to work part-time, and I think it was more internal though, that I felt uncomfortable in my skin. It gets to a point where it's just like, I don't feel comfortable. Like I want to get active again. I want to, and also like being a mom sometimes can be really lonely. And I was like, I want to get back into a community setting of working out. Cause like, yeah, I could do it by myself at home or whatnot, or just go walking. But I wanted to like put myself out there and just meet new people instead of just always focusing on, oh, I'm a mom.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. And then there's, so the difference between your first pregnancy and then your second, right? So the first one, were you working out through it or no?
No, I wasn't working out through it because I was working full time still, like very full time in a professional restaurant. So so I guess like when I said, now that I think of it, like I wasn't actually active once I was more into my career. Like before that, like, you know, I do like yoga a lot, but then once I started, like the few years before I gave birth to my first, I was really career focused. So I didn't have as much time to work out, but I totally lost my train of thought. What were you talking about?
Oh yeah, I was just saying like the difference between like your kind of your first and second. Were you working out in your first one versus your second? And it sounds like you were not working out through your first one.
I was not working out for my first one, so I think that was like why I felt like I wasn't working out for a while before I did find Reason. And then when I became pregnant with my second, I'd been at Reason for maybe a year and a half or so. And I was still working professionally as a private chef now. And so I chose once again to go back to being a mom. Like I wanted that time with my first child before she wasn't an only child anymore. And then the rest of my time was working. So I kind of put myself on the back burner again when I was pregnant with my second.
Got it. What do you feel like was the hardest part for you with being pregnant?
Not being active, because I had been like, once I committed to Reason, I went like all in.
Yeah, like
my
1,000%. Yeah.
Yeah. Because like having only one child is way different from having two. Cause you're able to like, I was able to have my mom watch my daughter when I'd like work out. I was able to have a lot more me time. And so my first time going into Reason, I was like, had a lot of like time for me. And then, going into having another one, it's just like the time is less.
But so the hardest thing was just like, do you feel like in a sense you kind of deprioritized yourself?
Yeah, I feel like once I became pregnant but also working full time, it's like I became the like almost like the third priority, like work, family, and then myself.
Do you feel like, I mean, obviously, I have this, I was just on a call with my publisher, right? And we're talking about kind of like my upbringing and a lot of stuff I don't want to say I resent, but you're kind of like, man, like you kind of wish it didn't happen, but then at the same time, you don't really wish it didn't happen because it kind of formed who you are. And that's just like the whole idea of becoming a person, right? It's like, you don't really you wouldn't trade it. But just with who you are and what you know now, do you feel like, obviously I feel like you've grown a lot as a person. We all have over the course of many, many years. How do you feel like, how would you tackle that differently now? Or like, would you feel like your mindset is different on, if let's say you're about to have a third, what do you feel like your approach would look like now?
I think my approach would be that I would try to prioritize myself like throughout my pregnancy. Like it's not easy. Not everyone has the luxury of like help for childcare. And that's a huge part. Like, and it's not easy to like say maybe the only class you can attend is 5:30 a.m. It's not easy to do that, but I would try somehow. And I was literally just texting someone on this earlier. I was texting my buddy who's checking in on me too. Like how am I doing right now? Right. It's like, how's everything going with the kids? What you just said made me think of that. Let me read it to you real quick, because it made me think of what you just said. I said, well, what you said kind of reminded me of like privilege, right? And what I said was something that's been helping me, because like I've been in a little bit of a funk for the past 10 days. Like today I woke up and honestly, it's weird to say out loud, and you're the first person I've kind of said it to, other than my wife, is like, I've been feeling a little bit depressed.
this last 10 days. And it feels weird because like I can't really explain it. I exercise. My nutrition hasn't like gone to crap or anything like that. My sleep has been very, very bad. So the sleep deprivation has been quite bad. And even if I was able to get sleep, it's not the same as it's not the same sleep that I was getting prior to, even when Diana was pregnant, my sleep was a lot better. But something that I've been reminding myself lately, and that's been kind of helpful, is to just acknowledge the privilege that I do have. And what I was thinking about was I was not this present with Harper being born, our first one. And because my mind was just in a completely different space. So I feel like I had to grow into this person with this current layer of consciousness that I have. And that's a privilege to be able to have that. That's like that kind of that bank in the back of my mind where I'm able to have it sounds weird to say, but I'm able to have like a healthier way of thinking. It's not just like, it's not financially we're in a better position or anything like that. It's like, or that we have more help. We do feel like we have more community around us, that we feel supported. And that's really, really powerful to have. Like, we don't feel like we're alone doing it. The first time we had Harper, we were very alone. We were living in Duarte, which is not very far, but nobody would come visit us. Like not even our own family. Right. Yeah. And then this time around, like there's people around all the time. We have a meal train set up for us. And I feel this layer of privilege where I think a certain way. So then it's not really like this, like all the physiologically, all the things are the same. Like I'm not sleeping. I don't really have much of an appetite. Like I eat because I need to, like I know I should, right? Like I just had lunch right now, but I wasn't hungry. I ate it because I wanted to hit macros, as opposed to, like I feel hungry and I want to eat. So I haven't had the desire to eat for like 2 weeks. And then my training, like it hasn't really been the best, but I've been moving, like I've been like getting my biking in every day. I'll do the gym programming like at home or on my own. I haven't really been at the gym very much. And I'm actually planning to do today's workout like right after our call right now. But yeah, so it's like, it's acknowledging that, man, like I have this, I know this, and knowing this and having knowledge of it and having the experience of going through that is a privilege in itself that wasn't afforded to me the first, or even honestly, the second time we had a kid, So I think that's cool. That's cool that you share that perspective. That really, really related to me. Yeah. Is there anything else that you wanted to kind of add to that or?
Oh no, I can definitely relate because I feel like being a parent is all about seasons and like nothing is ever going to be the same. Like, it's like, oh yeah, I went through it with my like first and like being in and out of being active. And like, even if I were to have a third, it's like, okay, what could I do differently? But I think what's changed the most is like my mindset and like the fact that now I'm equipped with like awareness of habits, like healthy habits. Like it's not just like working out, but like sleep and eating and taking time for yourself, all those things. Like it's the whole picture of it. Like, And
it's crazy because like, I feel like when you first joined our gym, there was some consciousness of it. And then I don't think we really developed like, I mean, you've been with us since like 2018, right? So you've seen even how we as an organization has really grown. Like if Reason itself was like a living organization, it's kind of like went from like I don't want to say teenager to adulthood, but it's like it has its own personality, right? Yeah. And I feel like even the way that our staff thinks has evolved tremendously over the past 4 years. There was the first few years it was like train hard and eat well, and then it was just kind of ended there. And then now there's a lot more of this holistic approach of like, how does this feed you as a person, and how does this help you? Like what matters most isn't honestly even what happens in the gym. It's how it makes your life better outside of the gym, because the gym is just 1 hour of your day.
Yeah, definitely. And like my first year working out, like my first year at Reason, I was like so all about it to the point where I was like working out 6 days a week there, doing extra work. And like, I was able to, like my schedule allowed me for it. Like I was younger and my body only went through one child, but it's like, this time around, it's been a completely different approach. And with Coach Luke, it's like, he's asked me a lot, like, what are my goals? What do I want from this? And I've been through like a lot of seasons since even just coming back, especially just in 2022, like 2022, January, I got COVID. February, I broke my toe. Yeah. Now this month I went through like crazy, like wisdom teeth. And like, my training has not been consistent at all. And in the past, like I would have been really hard on myself, but I'm like taking a step back and be like, my body needs to heal. The season is different. Like what are
it's
the
hard
other
not to just
things I can do?
throw it all away, right?
Yeah,
Like,
it's really hard.
Yeah.
But it's like, now I'm like, okay, well, at least what can I control more? Like my, like eating at home, my sleeping. Yeah.
And it's like, it's crazy because like with going through all this and it's only March, we've only gone through barely the first quarter of the year. It sounds like the journey for 2022, at least the first quarter of it has been all about like resilience and maybe things haven't gone your way, but how do you still maintain a semblance of what it means to be healthy and take care of yourself and practice self-care, right?
Yeah.
That's like really, I think that's something that a lot of parents identify with. I'm sure a lot of moms as well. And even people that aren't parents yet, like, it's like, it's so easy to, you know, like, oh, this went wrong. And then all it takes is like a couple more dominoes and you're like, dude, forget it.
Yeah.
Forget it. Like, and then it's like, we're back, we start to backslide a little bit, whatever that means to each of us. Right. And then we're back to the mindset that we used to have and then the lifestyle that we work so hard to grow out of. Right.
Completely, can completely relate because one of the biggest things I've been working on is like healthy eating habits. Like, and it's so easy for me to like go back to my default of like not eating all my meals because I'm a busy mom or I'm working and like, and then I like right now, I kind of feel like I'm in a funk too. And I can like see myself being like, oh, now I see how in the past I would have easily slid back to like, oh, I'm just not going to like eat all my protein and eat all my veg. And I'm only going to eat like one meal a day, but you know, like that kind of stuff. So it's just like, I can see how like people just then completely like fall off. And there's so much, it's such a cycle of like, oh, I feel guilty. I feel a little bit embarrassed, whatnot. But
and the biggest part of it, I think just, this is me, a third party listening to what you've gone through in the last few years is what you have now versus what you didn't have. I actually posted about this like 2 or 3 days ago. I wrote that radical success requires radical accountability. And the reason why radical success requires radical accountability is when you really want something, when you really want to achieve something, you have to be held accountable to it, right? The easiest thing that I always tell people is like, if you're trying to make a change, the first thing I challenge you to do is this. First of all, make sure that it's the thing that you really want, right? Like you actually want this thing, because don't trick yourself into thinking you want something that's like really outrageous. And then the second thing is to say it out loud. Because when we start saying it out loud, whether it doesn't even have to be like shouting out on the rooftops. It's like, just tell the people that are closest in your life and they're going to know this about you. And that makes a huge change already, because like, okay, well, now there's skin in the game. At least somebody knows about it. Right. Yeah. And then the next layer is up. It's like, I think about it for myself too. It's like, I think the reason why I'm more successful in everything I'm doing today, in this season of my life, you know, I'm in my mid 30s this year, right? Officially hitting that mid 30 mark, right? I'm thinking about, well, the reason why I'm having more success in everything that I'm doing is because I'm more willing to be held accountable for everything that I'm doing than I ever have. There are no excuses. And if I say I really want to do this thing, well, I would say like half of our coaching staff ourselves, we have coaches ourselves now, right? That wasn't something that we had before. Like I went 10 years nearly without having a coach, because I was like, well, I am the coach. It's like a lot of it's like a pride element, right? And you can think that as a parent too. It's like, oh, like I know everything. Like I've done it once and I have experience in this and that. And then there's nothing to be held accountable to, right? But then I think, I don't know if that resonates. Is that resonating?
Yeah, that resonates with me.
Yeah, because it sounds like you own your journey where you're at, and now whereas before it's not that you didn't own it, but it was like it's easier to like, oh, so well, this isn't going right.
Yeah.
But then like when you go back to it, it's like, whose fault is it always?
My own, yeah.
My own, right?
It's like really like breaking old habits, breaking old mindsets, breaking old self-talk, like what our body completely defaults to. And it's a constant journey. Like I've really realized these past years, it's not like, even with like learning new skills in the gym or lifting more, it's not always going to be like, look like this. It's definitely like a journey where it's like, there's going to be ups, there's going to be downs, but the most important thing is not to just like jump off the track. Like,
yeah. Sorry, we went a little bit of a tangent there, but that was really cool to hear about. Yeah. So those are some of the harder parts of being pregnant. Like, what did you love most, like or if there's nothing, you can say nothing, but was there anything that you really loved about being pregnant?
Yeah, I mean, I love the experience of carrying human life. Like, I mean, I think it's really hard for like the dads to like, it's just a bond that's unbreakable.
Yeah.
And it's like feeling kicks, feeling the heartbeat, feeling hiccups. It's just something that like, oh, it's really tiring and there's nausea. But once it's over, you're like, wow, I miss it. It's a very special period. Like,
I can't wait to show Diana this episode. She was so ready to have Bailey come out. So
yeah, I mean, it's hot, it's uncomfortable, it's itchy. You're like, it's not your body. Really uncomfortable I was really uncomfortable in my body, but there's also points where I was like, wow, this is really beautiful. And like,
it's really special, right?
Really special. And I miss it, but I'm like, oh no. Yeah. No, not a third, but I'm glad I did get to experience it twice.
Yeah. What did like support look like for you throughout both of your pregnancies, or if they're different, that you can share about that too, but what did your support system look like?
For the most part, my support system is like my immediate family, my husband, my mom, my sister, a few close friends, but for the most part, it's very like family. Got it. Yeah.
Cool. And then what advice would you give? This is like for soon-to-be moms. So for moms what advice would you give soon-to-be moms who want to continue to train or exercise during their pregnancy?
I would say to really just listen to your body. Your body's growing and changing, and like a lot of energy is going to like creating and feeding like a little being. So it's like, I mean, I remember I was working out for a few weeks during my second, and I just felt like when I felt weak, I felt bad. Like, oh my gosh, I was just doing this weight a while ago, or why am I getting winded? But it's like, I think the most important thing is like to just stay active, but don't be hard on yourself about it. But to like listen to your body.
What's that like, wrestling with that when you have an expectation of yourself, right? And then being pregnant and not like how do you reconcile that?
Yeah, I think it was hard because I did stop working out. Like once I found out I was pregnant, I remember it was during the open of 2019. I found out like during that, or maybe a few weeks before, like during that I was pregnant. And I was like, okay, after the open, I'm going to like continue working out for a while. But I was also like, work was getting crazy too. And I was just like getting more tired. And I struggled with it a lot because I was like, oh, just a few weeks ago, I was like, getting pull-ups and like doing all these things. And like, so I know what it feels to be like active in a good place with my body and like my mind. But now looking back, like, I feel like I've grown a lot more in that it was hard for me to reconcile like that I wasn't being active during my pregnancy. And I'd hear about other moms like, oh, they're working out until the week of their pregnancy. They're working out till the day before. Yeah. And it really was about like not comparing myself. Like everything is like, I really think about like everything is just a season. Like I was so worried, like, oh, I'm going to lose all my gains, or I'm going to like go back to feeling really winded when I work out. And it's just like everything in your life is like, it changes. Nothing will ever stay the same. So it's like, it's just phases of your life.
Yeah. Now in this season of life, two kids, 5 and 2.5.
2. Yeah. 5 and 2. Like
5 and 2. What's it like juggling that with your, like, what's the life? I have a guess, but what's the lifestyle like as cause like, it seems like you're doing a really great job of taking care of yourself. Actually, no, not seems you're doing a great job of taking care of yourself. So I received that. And how has that been something that you've been able to do?
It's a juggle, and I do feel fortunate that I have a profession where I'm not working every day. I think that allows me to like be able to come into the gym and whatnot. It's definitely harder. Like when I first came back to the gym and I was healthy and pre-COVID, pre-toe, I was like going back to 5:30 a.m. Like, I think it's important that you find a class time that works with your schedule. I think that's the first key, and stay consistent with it. I feel like when I start to fall off is when I'm like, oh, today I'll go to 5:30. Oh, tomorrow I'll go to 9, or like, it just becomes, it's not stable anymore. So it's like, it's a juggle. And I feel better when I just stick with a set time. Consistency. I think that's the first thing, like consistency. Like, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to do it. Or if you're someone that works like whatever time you work, and they're like, okay, after work, I'm just going to go to the gym. Yeah. But I think for me, it's like unfortunate that I have a profession where I don't work every day. And that's what I'm able to really like spend more time, like doing what I like, doing what serves me. And the fact that my kids are both in preschool age. Oh, yeah, I think it's hard for moms that have like 2 and unders. Yeah, that's the hardest age. Yeah. I mean, they can go to preschool at that age too. So yeah, they can. Like, I think it's like whatever little bit, like, I know there's a lot of mom guilt in the beginning, like, but then I remember I always like think like, if I take the time for myself, I'm going to be a better mom, because I'm going to be energized. I'm going to feel good about myself. I'll have a little bit of adrenaline. And so that's what keeps me going, that, okay, even if I have to wake up early, like at 5 to get my 5:30 in the morning workout in, it'll carry me through the rest of the day to be like better for myself, better for my kids, better for as a wife. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I feel exactly the same way. Are there any like rules for life regarding, like, related to your health that you kind of follow? Is that you? That's kind of a big question, huh? Would you like an example? I think for me, like, if it doesn't serve me, I don't do it. Like, I love that. Like, for myself, like, I don't drink because it doesn't really do anything for me. Like, I do have really low tolerance, so I pass to like not feeling good quickly, but it's like, it doesn't serve me, and I just don't do it. Like, I don't, but it doesn't, I don't have anything against it. Like, I wish I would. Sure. Like, I wish I could. That's weird. That's probably one of my rules I didn't know I had. Yeah. So it's like, if it doesn't serve me, I don't do it. Like, if I'm, I think for like health wise, like, Awesome. Love that. What advice would you give to moms who feel like, or claim that they don't have time for exercise? This is the hardest, because I even struggle through it. Like, there's a juggle of like I do the juggle of like, okay, more sleep, or like a little bit more time to like just veg out for myself, like read or just relax or decompress. A lot of times I forget that, like, how I feel after I work out, how good I feel after I work out. So I make those excuses for myself. But I think one of the biggest things is finding something. Like, I feel fortunate that I live literally like 4 minutes from Reason. I don't think like it would be as easy for me if I lived like 20 minutes away or like, you know, so I feel like saying that you don't have time, I think it's like, you have to make it so there's no excuses in between. Yeah. And if it's like working out at home, it's working out at home. If it's just walking around the block a few times, I think it's like, once you start, it's a lot easier. Yeah. But you got to find the thing that serves you, sounds like. Yeah. And it's like, no big expectations. Like, don't think, okay, tomorrow I'm going to work out and I'm going to do an hour. I'm going to work out for an hour, 5 days a week. It's like, start small. Yeah. I think one of the things that I think I had to learn over the years, and I'm even learning today, my throat is like blocking up. One of the things that I was learning over the years, and I still am learning today, is this reconciliation of who I am and where I'm at, like in life in general, is a direct result of what I have done and have not done. Does that make sense? So I think it's like a good example would be, I hear a lot of people say like, oh, like your mom and your health. I hear this a lot. Say, oh, like, well, you're a dad and your health, like you own a gym, so that's why you're fit. And I'm always like, okay, like that's making a lot of assumptions here. Like that it should be really easy for me. That's like assuming that because someone's a chef, they eat like gourmet every single meal or something like that, right? It's just the furthest thing from the truth. Yeah.
this is what we do. This is like something that we do well and help others. And obviously, yeah, like I should I be in shape? Yeah, I feel like I do feel pressure that I should be. But in terms of like how easy it is for me, it's not any easier for me than it is for anybody. Right.
Yeah.
But I think there's a mistake that we make where we think we look at someone else's life and we think, oh, must be nice. Mm-hmm. And the truth is that on the other side of must be nice is we don't realize the intention that someone has put in to be able to have us say must be nice, right? Like I think the big thing that a good example I draw is a lot of people think of like CEOs and they think like, oh, like must be nice to be a CEO. You just sit there and don't do anything. You collect like $500,000 a year or something like that. And it's like, I've been coaching CEOs now, like we're like C-level like executives for the past 2.5-3 years now, since pre-COVID. So like 3 years. And I'll tell you this, they have the busiest lives. Like these are people that have children, that they have families, and you know, they would say themselves like they're not the best about their children and their families. They're not the best about taking care of their health. They're not the best about a lot of these other things. But what are they good at? They're good at doing their jobs, right? Yeah. Which is how they got there. And there's like, not to say that that's a knock on them, but there's a lot that was sacrificed to get there, right? And so to try to work towards and achieve that balance is something that everybody's trying to work towards. But I think when people think that it's easy for any one person, it's like, it's just, what are we prioritizing? So I think it doesn't have to look the same for everybody. It sounds like what you're saying, like you just need to kind of get going.
Yeah. I mean, because like I think like, okay, even if someone's like, well, I don't have anyone to watch my child, I think like fortunate enough that Jason, my husband, it's like we give each other time to work out. Like he knows if I want to work out, then he'll watch the kids, or say at night he works out in the garage and I'll put the kids to sleep. And I realize maybe not everyone has a partner like that, or maybe people have work schedules that that doesn't work. And I think it's like trying to find what works, will work in your current the phase you are in your life right now.
Yeah. And it's so crazy because it really just goes back to like, what is, if it's important to you, like, will you find a way? Right. Yeah. I saw a video about this kid in India the other day, running home. Like he's running home, and in context, like thinking about it in context, is actually really creepy. This guy was recording him and saying like, let me give you a ride home. Like, why are you running home at midnight? He's like, how old are you? Oh, I'm 19 years old. He's like, why are you running? He's like, oh, I run home. He lives like 10K away from home. That's far. That's like 6 miles, right? So he runs home every day. He's like, well, why are you running? Why can't you just take a bus or walk or whatever? He goes, because this is the only time, it's at midnight. And he's like, this is the only time I have to exercise. I'm like, wow, that's at 19 years old to be able to recognize that and be like, oh, I'm going to run home every day after my shift because I start my day really early, and they don't have, I don't think, the same labor laws we have out here. So I think he was very hard. And just to know that, like, oh yeah, he's like, I have this job. He's like running this entire time. It's like, it's very David Goggins-esque. He's like running and like, I work at McDonald's and I'm trying to go into the army. So like, I want to get healthier. And it's like, he's that mature to see that and be like, you know what, if it's important to me, I'm going to find a way, even if it's the only time is at midnight when I'm going home from my shift, instead of taking public transportation home, I'm going to run. Right. Yeah. Wow. So yeah, that's cool. Thank you. That's a really great answer. And glad to be able to elaborate on that. Two more questions. And then we're going to go into some fun questions to kind of end out. What, not that the other ones weren't fun, but what, you know, being training for this long now and being here now, what problem do you feel like being part of Reason solves for you?
I think it's like a community of like-minded people, and that I can work out at home, or I can find other ways to work out. But when I go to Reason, it's like everyone's on the same page. And I think as like a mom, as someone working, it's nice to have a community like that.
Awesome. Straight into the point. Some fun questions here for you. Do you think you're more of a cardio mommy or a strength training mommy, or both?
I think I'm more of a strength training mommy. I mean, I think I go through phases, but it's like, cardio is hard right now. Like once you're out of it and you try to go back into it, I'm like, the assault bike is so hard or whatnot. But yeah. I mean, I think I go through phases where I'm like, I really just want to start running again or whatnot.
Yeah. Something I love is that they always say that, not they always say, but something I heard as I was studying kinesiology in college was strength takes years, conditioning takes months, right? Like strength takes years to build. Like you can build strength over years, and then you can lose it, but like slowly. Whereas conditioning, you lose it really fast. You can get it back a lot faster, right? As far as, do you have a least favorite exercise?
Probably assault bike.
Assault bike, yeah, that's probably a lot of people's. What don't you like about it? It's fantastic. Do you have any mental tricks that you use when you just don't feel like working out?
It's really hard. I just remind myself how I feel after and how it carries me throughout the day. And like, I think that was one of the biggest things that pushed me to want to get back into working out after I had my first, was that I was like, I want to get back to feeling like me so I can be a better mother. Like, instead of like being so short and irritable and like uncomfortable, because it's like, I didn't have something that was like made me feel good.
That just really motivated me to work out right now.
Even myself, like, I'm like, haven't been working out that much. And it's just like, I tell myself how good it feels and how actually easy it is to get back on it. And I think setting the bar, not thinking like, I need to do an hour of cardio, like 15 minutes. Like,
you know, one of the hardest things that I went through, and I haven't really shared this story very many times, is when I first had Harper. By then I was really outside of like competition, Eric, already for kind of like for a year or two. But in the back of my mind, you're kind of old, because I had her in 2016, and in 2014 I got hurt, and there's this journey of like rehabbing and trying to come back, and then not really learning any lessons through that, and just pounding Advil and then going back at it again, and just because I was trying to like uphold this image that really nobody really cared about except for myself. But I had a really hard time anytime I would jump into gym class or something like that, and I would feel this pressure to win, because like I'm used to being top of the class, or, you know, it's like, oh, like people, maybe I feel like they perceive me a certain way. So I feel like I have to be fitter than everybody. And, you know, this year, I think about even going back on this year, I did the open scaled for one of the workouts. And for me this year was the goal was to get through the open and like not hurt myself. Yeah. And that was surprisingly actually not that hard for me to do this year. Like it was really no sense of like ego check or anything like that. But I think about it, and I look at how I've grown over the past year, a couple of years, where maybe before I was working out, and I think that you start getting lost in why you're even doing it. It starts to become this thing that becomes for somebody else, right? Where now I realize like, no, I do this because it gives me a ton of clarity. Right. It makes me feel really good. And like, that's the high that I crave versus maybe pseudo attention that I'm going to give myself, or like this really short-lived praise that doesn't honestly really mean anything. Like it doesn't like, who cares if I'm highly competitive at exercising out of a group of 150 people, or maybe even like comparably to the same group, like who honestly really cares that much outside of myself? You know? Yeah. And that's hard. I think balancing that in the CrossFit culture, right? It's like, because it is competitive. It is something that's difficult.
Yeah. The past couple of years, I've been thinking about a lot, like, because my toe is still broken. I'm kind of like trying to take a step back so it can fully heal. And this time around, I'm like, because I place the exact same internal pressure on myself to perform a certain way. And I'm like, why don't I just go a little bit? Like, I don't need to go. It's not about going hard or not. It's just, I feel like I need to work out a certain intensity or whatnot. And I've really been evaluating, like, when I go back, like, what do I want this to look like? And I'm really like focusing on like, how do I want it? How do I want the classes to serve me? Like, what is my goal to get from them? Yeah.
It's funny, because like if Rye or Alice were you in your shoes, we would tell them, like, or my own kids, I would be like, hey, like, just take it a step at a time. Yet as being the parents, right, we have these weird expectations of how we're supposed to accomplish it, or like it's like we can go through a class and it could be a great class. Like, and it's crazy because it can be a great class. The only difference is the mindset that I had going into it, deciding like the outcome already, right? It's like if I go in and I'm like, oh, if I don't come out with this expectation, then therefore I didn't actually get a good workout, which is like so silly.
And we often forget that we're just even showing up and like moving and that in itself, like as a parent, is like putting everything else and stepping through the door is an accomplishment in itself. Yeah.
I can remember back on this time where I had first had Harper and I came home and it was like, I really got in my head about this workout that I can't remember the work, but I remember the feeling that I had. And the feeling was being upset that I didn't go a minute faster than I should have on the total time of the workout. And it was like kind of bothering me. And then Diana was like, why are you being like that? Like she's like, I thought working out makes you feel good. And I was like, yeah, I thought so too. Like I was like that short. Right? I was like, yeah, I thought so too. And then it's weird because the only difference is how I thought about myself. That's like the only difference, is because if I had come into the workout thinking, oh, this is going to make me feel better. I'm here to move. And not only am I here to move, I'm here to move pretty fast today, and I'm going to move fast. And regardless of the result, like I'm going to feel good and I'm going to leave. I'm not going to regret doing it. And here's the thing is like, because I did I went a minute slower than I thought, I actually kind of regretted doing the workout. Isn't that silly? Like that's so silly.
Live up to your own expectations.
Correct. I almost wish I didn't do it because I felt like I'd failed at something. Whereas the same perspective, I just go through, if I'm just here to like move, and because I know that it makes me a better husband, a better dad, it makes me more present, it makes me more clear, it makes me more conscious, then it's like that alone isn't a win in itself. But then because I chose to have this other perspective, it became this totally bad thing in my life. You know?
Yeah. And I think we also forget that like as parents, like having children and the lack of sleep and what it adds up over the years. So the athlete we are today is going to be different. Like for myself, the athlete I am today is way different from the athlete I am 3 years ago. And it's just like, as we get older, our bodies are changing, but we're not giving ourselves that grace.
Yeah, except for Brian. Brian just gets fitter every day, which is kind of annoying.
Yeah. Yay, Brian.
so the key might be to actually start a little bit later. Start at 50.
Start a little bit later when your kids aren't so young.
And then get super, super shredded before you're even 60 and just be fitter than all your friends.
Totally.
I'm just kidding. Last kind of fun question. What is your go-to snack food if you have one? Oh, so you can share two ways. One's like a healthy one, and then one's like your guilty pleasure.
My go-to like healthy snack food would probably be like non-fat Greek yogurt with like a lot of berries, like a ridiculous amount, and like so it's like that's my
common mom one. A lot of moms like Greek yogurt. Very interesting. With fruit or granola.
Yeah, or like with something maybe like healthy but crunchy on top. And then my not healthy snack food is like probably something like crunchy. Like it's not like
salty potato chips? No?
Not potato chips, but like I guess like I don't know, something snacky crunchy. I try not to have like that because then I'm just tempted. So I just try not to have snacky, crunchy things. But yeah, snacky, crunchy things.
Cool. I'm trying to think like what kind of snacks fall into that category.
I know, I forget right now. Like when I get in like a snack habit, but yeah, I can't.
I'm trying to think of like Trader Joe's dried snack foods right now that are crunchy. That are not potato chips. And I'm thinking of like pseudo chips right now. Yeah.
Maybe like more like Asian like chips or like Asian crackers. Like
I see. Like rice crackers and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Rice crackers.
Sounds great. Cool. Is there anything that you want to add or share? This is going to be shared within our listeners. It's going to be kind of a play in our Defining Reason podcast. Is there anything that you want to add or just encouragement that you want to give people or anything like that?
I think it's all really just a journey. It's like, I think from like Instagram or other things, like you think like, oh, everyone's just working out and like being this best version of themselves and whatnot. But I think it's like everyone's going through different seasons in their lives. And I think it's really about being honest with yourself. Like, maybe I'm not working out as much as I want to be right now, but what are all the other little things that I can do to keep up my mental health? And like, maybe you're injured, and when your body's ready to get back to that point, like everything else is in line, whatnot. I think it's just really like, it's not just about working out. Like as I get older, I realize it's not just about working out. It's about like mental health, like family time, healthy eating habits, enough sleep, water. And whereas younger, it's just like, oh, if I work out 2 hours a day, I'm going to feel good. Like everything else will be good, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, it's not always like that. It's not always about that.
That's awesome. Thank you. That was really great.
Don't forget to subscribe and share, guys.
Follow us on Instagram at Finding Reason Podcast. Talk to you guys soon.